Well, good evening, everybody. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to my channel. It is called McDuff Lives 2, and that's because this is our backup channel. We should be back on Tuesday on McDuff Lives, and thanks for finding us here on the backup channel. We now have 1,100 subscribers on the backup channel. We've got 7,000 and some on the other channel, so the reach of the backup channel is not where we would like it to be yet. We want to encourage you to pass around the news that we do have this backup channel. So when we get strikes, we don't have a chance to put up, say, hey, I got a strike, because they just take you down. You don't have a chance to say, hey, look at my backup channel. So anyway, if you would pass around the link here to this backup channel, I'd appreciate it. And check in and say hi to folks. Here we have Kathy Sue and Melissa, Christy, and being here, Robert Kovacs. Hi, Robert. Charles Held is here. Canadians Unite. And eek to you, Corky Goss. Well, I do think it is the Canadians that have my attention tonight. It's pretty dramatic with the cops coming in and breaking down the protest. As far as I can see. Let's see if I can. Yeah, let's go over to this YouTube channel. I'll put it up in a second. And just to have it on, we can see what's going on.
Nobody wants to ask Justin the tough questions. French questions. Nobody wants to ask tough questions. That's amazing. You guys have a hotel and everything?
See all the cops getting together. They've been using a type of a method of clearing the crowd by just taking maybe 10 or 12 feet at a time, and they would have horses come ride through that would help them to back up the people. I was watching it a little while earlier today. Anyway, the whole world is watching. They used to say that in the Democratic days, back when the protesters were on the left. These protesters are just protesting because they're citizens. They're not here to be on the left or the right. They're just saying, hey, we feel our rights as citizens are being oppressed. No mandates. So yeah,
I think I'm just gonna stick around for another 5 minutes, and then I'll be making my way out of here.
Okay.
I'd love to stay longer, but I'm absolutely frozen. My feet are cold.
Hey, there was a band out there. I mean, a string band out there, a fiddle player, a banjo, and a couple of guitars out there playing music for them with their furry hats on and everything. I know how that is to play in the cold. Your fingers don't work right after a while. It gets awfully cold. Anyway, isn't this amazing? And the cops, they have these masks on, so you can't really identify their faces unless you do a lot of research. You can't even, I mean, do they even have their badge numbers showing? This is creepy. Hello, Barbara Kay. Hello, being here, and everyone that's joined the channel. Brightmore is here. Australian police accused of burning protesters with DEWs, direct energy weapons. Cops with guns on rooftops in Ottawa. Yeah, I've seen that. You can see that in some of these videos. They'll show them with the with the cameras. Badge numbers on the right shoulders. Okay. Yeah, it's a great to see all of this citizen journalism going on, isn't it? I have to give credit to our channel here. Let me minimize this so I can see who it is. It's called 1988 Watchman. So thank you, 1988 Watchman. And they have a donate button up there on the right there. 1988 button. There's a donate button at the top of their chat list. Pretty cool. All right. Well, I think I'll leave it there with the report from Canada. Now there's a big truck convoy headed towards towards DC that are leaving California. And I don't know how to feel about that myself, because I'm afraid that some of these might be agents provocateur. And while in Canada they have a mandatory jab policy, which is the essence of the protests. Is not that they're against the jab, but just that they don't think it should be mandatory. And I agree with that. But I don't know if there's such a problem here in the United States that all the truckers are mandatory. If that's the case, then I can see it. But I don't know if we want to have a whole bunch of truck convoys just coming to DC with all the military preparation that's been done around DC. It would be a setup, and could be it could be a setup, and it could be just another way to dox people, to get all the personal information on people, just like I'm sure they did on January 6th of last year, to just identify the ones that will stand up, get up, stand up. All the leaders have left Ottawa. Mm. Barbara Kay, what can American patriots do? Well, I think you're doing it. You're chatting with fellow American patriots and people from around the world that want to see America win, America succeed. It's still true. It's the last best hope of mankind. Without America, there really isn't any hope. I can't imagine seeking freedom anywhere else. Anywhere else, the country's just going to be too weak to give you freedom, or it's going to be a totalitarian state where you have to do what you're told. And so I understand why we have to stand up. Seems a clash is inevitable. I don't know. I mean, look at over in Ukraine now, isn't it? Isn't it? still, it just looks like some kind of a badly scripted play, but that's the way other wars have started with just this. What the heck is going on? So, as I understand it, there's this region that is very close to Russia, Donetsk. It's the borderline region, and it's part of Ukraine right now legally. And there's another region, oblast, I think is the name in the Slavic countries, but it's like a province or a county or something. You know, I'm not that well familiar with it, but because of the urgency of it, I'm trying to wrap my brain around what's going on there. So Donetsk and possibly the next one over, which starts with an L, I can't remember that one, is a place where a lot of Russian uh, oriented people live. It's a lot closer to Russia than it is to Western Europe, or to, it's, in other words, it's very close to Russia on a map, and the population reflects that. Yet the sovereignty of it is still Ukraine, according to the United Nations, according to all the principal powers. Nobody says that this little place, Donetsk, is sovereign. So, except for this so-called Donetsk Republic, maybe Donetsk um, Republic has some uh, self-governing rights under the law of Ukraine. But there's been fighting going on in Donetsk for months now, and that's between the people that are called the separatists that want to break away from Ukraine and either become independent or join Russia, and the Ukrainians that, especially the Ukrainian army and the allied armies like the Azov people, which is the ones that, the Biden administration supports, and the ones that have the connections to the Nazis and the collaborationist armies. So it's a volatile situation that really should be sorted out by the people on the ground and not by great powers. But because we have NATO and we have this great big alliance, and because we have so many people pressing for military engagement, it's it is possible that we could get into a major war. And I also can think of it as a big distraction too, because what I really think is more important right now is the universal jab program, which, continues the pace, and that's why that's why the Canadian truckers are doing what they're doing. And is Ukraine a distraction from Ottawa? Well, don't take me for an expert on the events over there. I have been, for the past year or so, really been studying the Eastern Front in World War II. And boy, that's where all those horrible battles, the Kursk and Kharkov, and then the city down on Crimea called Sebastopol. Um, the whole Crimea and everything just fought back and forth. The huge armies, Germans and Russians, and so many people killed. So it is a place where wars happen, and it is one of those tinder boxes in the world that's blown up many times, and it could blow up again. I wish there was a way that I could know, but right now I don't know whether it's a school play, just to sell arms and, maybe Putin's even in on it, There's just no way to know. Norman Smith, how are you doing, buddy? Sure had fun that time you were here and we played some music together. That was great. Um, War is always the result of political failure. I don't think so. I think war is sometimes the result of somebody just wanting to have a war. That's what's hard to get your brain wrapped around. But the idea, and see, I think I brought these books in here. One of our what do you call? What do you guys? I don't like subs, subscribers or fans or followers. Uh, um, who goes by Wonder Win was kind enough to send me a couple of books by William Stewart, and this is the kind of book that goes on the esoteric, the where they put him in the spot over there with David Icke books and things. The Invisible College: The Great European Secret by William Stewart. But I tell you, it's good. It really is. It's like you took Eustace Mullins and the LaRouche people and, oh, I don't know, however many other ones you want to throw in there, Anthony Sutton. And, this person has obviously devoured all of the same stuff that I've been working my way through. So from me reading the first couple of chapters, I can tell you it's worthwhile. Um, but here's what's so hard is when what we're looking at here is conspiracy that has existed for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's not possible for most people to believe that. They just think everything happens in random. So we're building a foundation here of truth that will change the way people see the world. All the fake history books we had to read in school, well, they're going to be outdated by the work that we are doing. Yeah, conspiracy analysis. That's a good way to put it, Corky Goss. We have analytical minds, and we're trying to solve problems. And when all the problems tend to fit into a pattern, and the pattern involves the same people, places, and things, then we start to see a real conspiracy. It's not a theory. And when people spend their lives trying to expose things, and all the authors that I've read have done the same thing. Um, think of Jonathan Whitney, who wrote The Crimes of Patriots and the sacrifice that he and his family had to make to write that. And then, of course, he dies I think it was, I can't remember what form of cancer, but it was bad. Jonathan Schlimmer, who wrote The Raid, which I learned so much about the Sante Raid, and he was dying as he wrote that. Now we have H.P. Albarelli that died as he was finishing his last book, The Coup in Dallas. Didn't get to see it published. Kevin Coogan, who wrote about Golanevsky, the spy who would be czar, died after his manuscript went to the publisher, but he never saw his book published. And I think, I'm lucky that I was able to write my book about my dad and get it published, even if it's just on Amazon, it's there. And I feel a terrific sense of accomplishment and relief for having been able to do that. And although the book is only about 90 some pages long, I'm sure that if historians read it and take the care to follow up to see that what I've said is factually based and is consistent with all of the authorities that I've read and that are in the bibliography of the book, you see that I have a very firm grasp of the history around my dad's career now, which has come as a result of all the work I've done in the past 8 to 10 years. And so to get that small book out into the world was probably the most important thing that I've done in my life. So, and I still believe that if we study my dad's career and we'll try to figure out the answers, the answers at the end of the book to the questions at the end of the book, which are, I very much believe that it was a quick cancer case. Can we find uh, medical scientific evidence uh, to prove that? I think it's possible. I have kind of laid out the breadcrumbs in the book, but I need somebody with expertise to pick up the question. But it's been a terrific, eye-opening experience for me to learn about my dad's career, and I'm so grateful that I've gotten to do that. Well, hello, new people are joining, and let's see. All the live streamers in Ottawa are in jeopardy, says Christy. Yeah, I think there's kind of a news blackout on it because I thought that they were going to go and block different bridges and things and try to keep the protest going. It's all a all in flux right now. Well, let's talk about the book I've been reading excerpts from for a minute here. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s book, The Real Anthony Fauci, um, and how the how big pharma is killing our democracy and our public health. And this story about the AIDS is the biggest wedge I think we have to open people's minds. Isn't it? As we were reading last night, and I don't know if you had a chance to hear, but if you haven't, then make a point of listening to my show last night or share it with people because it's the part of the book where he exposes the fraud of HIV being the sole cause of this disease called AIDS and the impossibility of the people with one set of symptoms in America having AIDS, and then people with a completely different sets of symptoms in Africa being told they also have AIDS. It's obviously not possible that two different sets of symptoms would be named the same disease, especially when some people have the virus HIV and some people don't, but they still have the same sets of symptoms. And that was set out very, very clearly in the book. So if you have skeptics, just try to get them to listen to this book reading from last night, about 50 minutes long, but that part of the book gives you a foundation for skepticism about the current pandemic. Hey, Jack Parsons says Press for Truth has a live stream up in Ottawa right now. And Jeff Prather says this is what winning looks like. Well, I like that idea. I haven't watched Jeff Prather in a little while, but he's certainly an inside somebody that knows. I don't know how inside he is, but he's been well, SEAL team, I think. So he certainly has insider perspective. Charles says, like Aaron Adler says, Kabad Lubavitch. Now, I don't know what that connection really is. I know that um, it's a branch of Judaism, and I know that George Webb, I believe, said that he was part of that or had grown up in it with the youth part of it, and it's associated with current events in some way, but I haven't got a firm handle on that. So maybe I should talk to Aaron Adler about that. But yeah, I'd like to know more. I saw that Bill Gates thing. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I read the text under it. Bill Gates discovers, is Brightmore Dinosaur saying, Bill Gates discovers natural immunity. Today, Gates calls Omicron a more effective, quote, vaccine than Big Pharma's jab because Omicron delivers both B and T cells to battle the virus. Um, yeah, I don't know whether that what to me it indicates that uh, this Omicron must have started or been infected itself with something from a vaccine. I'm just trying to sort out the logic of it. That's where that's where I'm really why I'm trying to go back and understand the whole logic of whether they really have isolated these little things called viruses and whether a virus is in fact an infectious agent or just a piece of dead material that's sitting around in most people's bodies and doesn't have any effect. What is a viron? Is a viron alive? If it's coated with lipid, does that make it viable? Uh, if it's hasn't got the protein, there's just little variations in how the definition of virus, the definition of virion or viron, and I don't I don't have a basic belief in the soundness of the whole virus theory because it sounds so much like the next thing after germ theory, where they were trying to find some one little thing that is the cause of any particular disease. And of course, that ignores the importance of environmental factors and your immune system. And this is where it's all about is if your immune system is fit and ready to beat off the infections, it's just like with trying to kill somebody with cancer. If you inject cancer cancer cells into a person, if it's a healthy person, then even cancer cells will not cause cancer because the healthy person's immune system is going to defeat it. The only way that you can infect somebody with cancer is if their immune system has already been compromised. And that's what happened with my dad because first they give him the hepatitis, and that permanently compromises your immune system. And then they got cancer into him. And I believe it had something to do with that horrific infection of his toe that he suffered from, just exactly like Bob Marley. When Bob Marley got cancer, it was because of his great toe was infected. And the story is that somebody made him a gift. So one of the stories it was boots. The other stories it was some nice athletic shoes. And in any event, they had a piece of wire in them that was infected with a carcinogen, and it went into his toe. And he, would go out and play soccer. That was his passion. And he started having pain and couldn't play, and ended up get with a diagnosis of the cancer that killed him. So they go for your immune system, and you know, the the technique has been honed and perfected. It looks to me like they've been able to give people cancer for quite some time. One of the curious cases to me is Chamberlain, Neville Chamberlain, the guy that was supposed to fight World War II and wouldn't commit the troops, and so he comes down with cancer, and then the unelected Winston Churchill steps in. I'm not blaming it on Churchill, but I don't know. I just say that there's a lot of suspicious cases of cancer in history, and my dad is just one of them. Corky Goss, your dad started to renovate the basement. Can I speak to that period? Well, I think what you're referring to is I might have spoken to you or at the charrette sometime, and this was the period when it became apparent to us as kids and my mother that my dad was just uh, really out there. We had an unfinished basement in the house, and one of the things he always wanted to do was to build a den down there. And so he bought a bunch of lumber and we had those big concrete spike nails that you can nail lumber into the concrete. And he got some fixtures. I guess a friend of his was redecorating, and anyway, he got some like uh, bar bar type fixtures that he was going to build into this into a little den downstairs. And but he wasn't he wasn't able to get it together. He would start working on it, and then the next thing you know, he'd hit his thumb with a hammer or something, and it was frustrating for him, but it was frustrating for us. And he would get he would just have these mood swings and be very, very angry. And well, there's a lot of details to it, Corky, that I don't feel comfortable sharing because it's just kind of sad. But the bottom line, the point is that this is the period when he was at Saxa, and obviously there was a war going on within Saxa with him trying to establish evidence that the CIA was doing drug deals with the Laotian drug lords, apparently on a mission for Hoover, because Hoover obviously and the CIA were enemies. So him being double-hatted, as Doug Valentine described it, he's there as a representative of a certain part of the intelligence community, especially the FBI, but I think also the Navy and possibly the Defense Intelligence Agency, which is the contacts that he had. Um, Too complicated for me to say why I know that, but the DIA appears to have been the people that reached out from the Pentagon to him to see if he would come aboard and be their planner for the special ops that Kennedy set up after the Bay of Pigs. And that's what he was recruited to do, was to run all the special ops for all of the, whether it was Army, Navy, uh, CIA, DIA, any of them. Uh, he was the planner that had to that would review the plans that were submitted for ops and to sign off on them. And of course, he would make suggestions and say, "Here's, you need some more of this," or "Have you considered doing this?" That type of logistical and uh, and strategic planning support. But that was when he was under attack, um, and mentally. And that's where I think that the connection with the LSD comes in, where we found in Poisoner in Chief, Stephen Kinzer's book, where he reported that Sandoz, the Swiss chemical company that had invented LSD, had also done some experiments and had found that people that had hepatitis were like 10 times more susceptible to LSD than the normal people than other people. And so they thought, well, that makes it obviously a more effective truth drug if the person has had hepatitis. So having given my dad hepatitis and seeing that he was going through these mental changes, it's easy for me to think that, yeah, this was they decided to see if they could control his mind with drugs. And it makes perfect sense that that would have been the setup, because this discovery about hepatitis happened in the 50s. And my dad's illness happened in 1962 at the same time that he was transferred from the FBI to the Pentagon. So, yeah, I think he was hit with hepatitis, and then later he was hit with whatever combination of mind control drugs that they wanted to try on him. And that was, I guess, what you were asking me about, Corky, was to try to remember those times. And I can give you more details, but I would ask, not to do that right now. Tough times, tough memories. Yeah, TC, poisoning, it is an ancient dark art and very effective. A very, very long game. That's right. That's why I think it really is valuable to read, even if you're like skeptical about David Icke, right? But still, read a couple of his books because he's a good writer. And like I was saying about um, Bobby Kennedy's book, Bobby Jr.'s book, I don't agree with a lot of the stuff that RFK Jr. says, outside of this book. But the book itself has collected so much information together that makes a strong case. He's a good lawyer and, Sure, a lot of the facts are going to turn out to have been not exactly right, or maybe a little cherry picking to put the narrative together. But it does work, and I think he's done a great service in exposing, like last night's reading about the AIDS. You remember, that the story about the prisons in Arkansas and the Clintons uh, having some deal with tainted blood, and people that have had HIV, mixing that into the transfusions that might go into a blood bank, or even the Red Cross, or something horrific like that. You've heard those stories. Well, maybe if what they're trying to do is actually to get HIV into everybody, which is just a little virus that sometimes, you know, can be a part of a worse illness. But in most people, healthy people, it's not a problem, but it's there. If they can get it into the blood banks, if they can get it into the general bloodstream of the population, then may it might serve as a trigger for full-blown AIDS. I don't know that, but more likely it just serves as a diagnostic device that you go to the doctor and you're short of breath, and they give you an AIDS test. I mean, an HIV test, and it turns out, oh, you got HIV. Well, that shortness of breath, and then a couple of more symptoms, and they can say, "Oh, well, you've got AIDS." And then they treat you with the AIDS phenomenon, with the AIDS protocols. And that's what they did, all over the world, especially in the third world. And what did they treat them with? Was the AZT poison, which is still used as a treatment. And I shouldn't even say that it's poison, because I'm not a doctor to say that it's poison, but there's been enough accounts of it that enough other people that do know what they're talking about have said this stuff is poison. Well, it should be debated at least, but no, if you go look it up in the National Institutes of Health, you can see that it is a accepted therapy right now for AIDS, and maybe in the right dose, in the right way, it could be, but in the hands of these researchers that were sent out into the world by Dr. Fauci, uh, no, this was just the continuation of the great money train, great golden gravy train that came from the diagnosis from Dr. Robert Gallo that this one virus is the culprit, the sole cause of AIDS. It must have been because they needed a virus in order to apply their vaccine therapy. And why did they need to apply the vaccine therapy? Well, that's open for debate too. My opinion, I think that it has to do with putting in nano um, devices that can monitor your health and possibly even alter it. Little tiny devices. And that's been shown in medical and scientific literature that they do have these devices. And maybe that's what they're doing now, is just testing them out in different forms. And maybe that has something to do with what's happening with the young people's health. I say maybe because I don't know, but I have to raise the question because I see so much indication that there's something very, very wrong, and it has nothing to do with curing uh, this current pandemic, this Cove thing. It has something other agenda behind it. Is it maybe sterility? Is it sterilizing people? That's certainly a possibility. Is it shortening our lives? Is it giving us, cancer later, like like happened to my dad? That's a possibility. Is it just getting rid of old people? Make them more susceptible to those winter colds that come along. Don't have to pay the Medicare so long. The insurance companies have an interest in this, and the investors in the insurance companies, but they're playing God with these medications. That's my opinion. It has to do with something other than curing disease. There's something else going on. And that's what Klaus Schwab has said himself. He said, we couldn't get them to go with a digital ID without a disease. Where's my book? Oh, it's not here. But this is the basis of his book. Had it, the Great Reset. SARS, COVID 2, COVID-19, the Great Reset. It's obvious that's what the plan was to use the the virus in order to find a way to give everybody a digital ID, because everything depends upon a digital ID for them to work their fourth industrial revolution. So somehow or another, they're going to find a way to give everybody a digital ID. And if this isn't it, I'd be surprised, because they have certainly pressed the limit of credibility in every possible way, pulled out all the stops, and shut down, you know, even a little YouTube channel like mine, like Kennedy's Man to Smash the CIA, you know, shut down George Webb like forever. Why would they do that unless there wasn't a hidden agenda? Anyway, I do appreciate the books, and um, still I'm maybe 3 chapters into this book, but I'll probably tear through it this weekend. And next week, getting back to, I want to spend a little more time with Rockefeller medicine men. Um, Pete, our doctor friend over in Israel, wanted to ask me some questions about this book, and I want to follow up on that. And oh gosh, I've got so many so many books here on the table, and looking forward to sharing them all with you sooner or later. Ginger beer is medicinal. That's right. Okay, well, here's to you. Yeah, the Georgia Guidestones are not for nothing. That's right, Corky. Yeah, a great reawakening. Why don't let's have another great awakening? We had the first great awakening and a second great awakening. Let's all go out in the field somewhere and have a revival. We can all find Jesus together. Yeah, go dipping in the water, get baptized, sing some hymns at a very loud volume. Yeah, I wouldn't. I'm ready for Great Awakening number 3. Yeah, and there's more to life than meets the eye, or that you can weigh on a pair of scales, or that you can um, put a price on. Life is an incredible gift, and I'm so glad to be able to share, you know, with you guys. All right. Well, lots going on tonight. I'll probably go over and watch some more of the Ottawa things and get caught up on the Ukraine situation and call it a night. Well, I hope you enjoyed our little opportunity to just chat and ramble a little bit tonight. Thanks for participating, and I'll see you guys on Monday. Good night.